It is reported that there are approximately 100 balloons for the defense of the Romanian refineries, and that these balloons have all been disposed for an attack from the south. It is estimated that there will be at least 1,000 yards between the balloons. A report has been received that the balloons are not flown during the daytime. And calculations made with captured German balloons show that the German balloons are smaller and less effective than the British or American types. The German balloon has a capacity of 7,040 cubic feet, as opposed to 23,000 cubic feet for our balloons. And therefore the German cables are lighter. They have a breaking point of 1 ton as against 3¼ tons for our cables. And so heavy, low-flying airplanes, such as the B-24, should have no difficulty in breaking the German cables without serious damage to themselves. The anti-aircraft defenses of Ploesti are estimated at 80 heavy AA guns and 160 light AA guns. These again have largely been disposed for a night attack coming from the south along the railroad. The heavy ack should not trouble you at low altitude. All the anti-aircraft guns are manned by Romanians, and so there's a pretty good chance that there may be incidents like there were in Italy at the beginning of the war, when civilians could not get into the shelters because they were filled with anti-aircraft gunners. Reports have been received that machinery for making smoke screens has been installed. And smoke screens have not, however, proved successful against daylight attacks. Now, the defenses of Ploesti may look formidable on paper, but remember they are manned by Romanians, and that Ploesti is practically a virgin target. The only ravisher has been, so far, Joe Stalin a couple of years ago, and he did not quite finish the job because he lacked sufficient force. So therefore, the defense of the Ploesti area is not in practice. It'll be another case of Bordeaux and La Police. Navigation is one of the main difficulties to be overcome for a successful operation. You must remember that it is not easy to find your way about Southeast Europe, since there are very few landmarks. And so a high degree of skill in map reading is required. There will be no radio aids. Takeoff will be from the airfields in the Benghazi area at a time so as to enable you to be over the objective just before dusk, and so that you will have a night run home. Takeoff from Benghazi will be 0 hour. Your landfall on the Greek coast will be the southern tip of the island of Corfu. The course is 359 true, and to get the magnetic course, add 2 degrees for westerly variation. The distance from your base at Benghazi to Corfu is 430 knots. And so, if there was no wind, you should reach the southern tip of the island of Corfu in 2 hours, 41 minutes after takeoff. And by the time Corfu is reached, you should be flying at about 20,000 feet. Now let's have a look at the snags. First of all, steer a good course. And don't edge into the coast to get an early landfall. Keep clear of the islands of Zante and Cephalania. You want to take the enemy by surprise. And there may be radar on those islands. And there are also some WAP fighters at Patras. So just keep clear of those 3 places. And by the way, don't forget to work out ground speed and drift when you reach Corfu. And remember, you will not reach Corfu before 0 plus 2 hours, 20 minutes, or much later than 0 plus 3 hours. It is important that you should get an accurate landfall at Corfu. Corfu is easy to recognize. Have a good look at it now. Note the shape of Corfu, like a finger hanging down. Also the island of Paxos to the south, followed by an even smaller island. To the north and east of Corfu, there are high mountains. And at Corfu, you must change course to cross the Danube at Dobry Dal. Now, this leg of the journey is perhaps the most difficult, because the country over which you will have to fly is wild and mountainous. The success of this operation depends on your finding the right place to cross the Danube. Remember, you cross the Danube between Califat and Lom at Dobry Dal. And now for technical details. At Corfu, change course for the Danube to 026 true. From Corfu to the Danube crossing is 297 knots. So that should take you not more than 1 hour, 40 minutes, or less than 1 hour, 20 minutes. Now let's have a look at the landmarks on the course on a million-scale map. After leaving Corfu, you observe that the country is mountainous on both sides. At about 65 knots from Corfu, you should see a high range of mountains running parallel to the right of your track. That is shown by the white arrow on the screen. At nearly 87 knots from Corfu, you should see the town of Koritsa on your left, another white arrow. Koritsa is not a big city, so don't expect to see Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. And ahead of you, you will see a big lake, Lake Prespanko Jez, and another small one south of it, called Lake Mikra. You can't mistake those lakes when you see them. They are your main landmarks, so look carefully now and remember them. You will also notice some big mountains, at which the arrow points, standing up behind the lakes, 2,600 meters high, or about 9,000 feet. Well, after crossing the lakes, you will pass over the big turn in the railway between Prilep and Velez, with a high mountain behind, which is shown by the black arrow. Next, you cross the main railway, which leads from Skopje to the south. And Skopje is shown by the white arrow. Skopje is quite a big town, and I would keep away from it for obvious security reasons. And anyhow, the railway, the river, and the valley between Velez and Skopje make good landmarks. You can't reach this railway until you have been flying between 50 minutes and 60 minutes from Corfu. Your course brings you parallel to the Skopje-Nice railway for the next 65 knots. You should see both the railway, the road, the valley, and the river if the weather is good. The dotted line on the base of the next landmark after leaving the Skopje-Nice railway runs in a northwest side arrow. This is a good landmark and is approximately 255 knots from Corfu. You will cross it at Pirot. When you cross this railway at Pirot, you'll only be 14 minutes from the Danube. And after leaving the railroad at Pirot, you should see a range of mountains ahead of you about 7,000 feet in height. And some 25 statute miles after crossing these mountains, you will see a railroad running east to west. Study the curves of this railroad, both to the west and at Broussarty, shown by the white arrow. See both on a clear day. You should cross this railway just to the west of where the railway crosses a small river. You should reach the Danube approximately between 1 hour 20 minutes and 1 hour 40 minutes after leaving Corfu. The black arrow points to Dobry Dal, the city inside the black circle. Now, we've laid this track out to bring you out on the most conspicuous bend in the Danube. That is, at the point where the rivers start turning north. This series of bends, as you see on the map, should be unmistakable. And where you cross the river, the Danube runs east and west and turns from north to east. The point is shown by the black green. At Dobry Dal, which is a few miles from the Danube, at the road junction, change course to 053 true, which will bring you direct to Ploesti, the city in the black circle high on the map, which is 102 knots from the Danube crossing. At the Danube crossing, start letting down so that you arrive at Ploesti at the planned height. Now, the last part of your navigation is most important. There must be no error in hitting Ploesti right on the nose, because the whole formation breaks up here, where the circle is forming on the map, to attack the different targets. I suggest, therefore, that you draw a crossing point to Ploesti, both on the million sheet. From Dobry Dal, the forces, white, red, and blue, proceed to Ploesti to attack Campana, Ploesti, and Brazi.